A warm greetings to all my dear students. In our last class, we had a discussion on the condition of our beloved country Bharat on the eve of independence. How agriculture was important to our country and how Britishers destroyed it. During discussion, we came across with various terms. The very important terms that we have to discuss, we have to know about the system of land revenue followed by British was Rayatwari system, Mahalwari system and Jamindari system. Above three systems were a very important part of land revenue system under the British in India. Now we will discuss these systems one by one. Let us start first with Rayatwari system. This system of land was instituted in the late 18th century by Sir Thomas Munro, Governor of Madras in 1820. This was practiced in the Madras and Bombay areas as well as Assam and Coorg provinces. The taxes were directly collected by the government from the peasants. The rate were 50% in dry land and 60% in wet land. If they failed to pay taxes, they were evicted by the government. Rayat, what do you mean by Rayat? Rayat means peasant cultivators. Now the second important system, Mahalwari system. The government of Lord William Bantic, Governor General of India from 1828 to 1835, introduced the Mahalwari system of land revenue in 1833. This system was introduced in northwest frontier, Agra Central Province, Punjab, etc. This had element of both the Jamindari and Rayatwari system. This system divided the land into mahals. Sometimes a mahal was constituted by one or more villages. Tax was assessed on the mahals. Each individual farmer gave his share. Here also ownership right were with peasants. Revenue was collected by the village headman or village leaders. Third system was Jamindari system. Jamindars were there and they were invested with all the responsibilities of collecting taxes. Now we had a discussion on agriculture system and now agriculture conditions on the eve of independence. Now we will discuss industrial sector on the eve of independence. Indian industrial sector was also crying off for the development in the colonial rules. What do you mean by this? In fact, our handicraft industries were totally destroyed by Britishers. No importance was given for the development of Indian industries. Let me highlight it, Indian industries. To see India growing industrial was against British rule. There were two reasons for keeping India away from modern industries. One was to keep India reduced to just as an exporter of prime raw materials for the major industries in Britain. Second, it was to turn the domestic market of India into a prime consumer of finished British goods, and industrialization of India could have weighed down both the prospect of British India. But these unfavorable policies led to decline in the indigenous handicraft industries, one of the backbone of our country, one of the backbone of our economy. This created enormous unemployment in the country. Also a market which was now deprived of the supply of locally made goods. What was the consequence of this? The rate of various locally available goods becomes very high. Second half of the 19th century saw a little progress in industrial development, but the pace was very slow and was confined to certain sectors only. Jute and cotton textile mills were the first one. Later paper, sugar, cement, etc. were set up. Major development came in the form of Tata Iron and Steel Company, which was established in year 1907, popularly known as TISCO. However, there were hardly any capital goods industries to promote further industrializations of India. India's foreign trade after industrial sector. Now we need to discuss the conditions of foreign trade in India. India's foreign trade goes back to ancient times. It used to be one of the most important trading country. In the colonial period, India's foreign trade was restricted to Britain only. We earlier having trade relationship, we were having trade relationship with different countries, but now all our trade relations were confined just with Britain only. They had the monopoly over the Indian exports. India was allowed to trade with only few neighbor countries. Still, there was a generation of large export surplus. This surplus came with a heavy cost. Rather, it was used to pay for British expenditures or maintaining the army and setups. We have to pay various taxes. Export surplus was one of the important taxes that was collected by the Britishers in order to maintain the army and their setups. So even high export could not turn around the murky picture of Indian economy. We were the exporters of raw materials. We were exporting maximum raw materials to Britishers. And when a person was supposed to supply, when a person was supposed to export some of their goods, they have to pay very high export duties. Now, talking about the demographic conditions of our country on the eve of independence, that is before 1947. The details of the populations of British India were collected first in 1881 through a census. This census is suffered for certain limitations, but it revealed the fact that the population was uneven in its growth. After 1881, a population census was taken even every 10 years. India was the stage of the first demographic transitions before 1921. The second stage of such a transition happened after 1921. At this stage, however, neither the population growth nor the total population of country was very high. We were having very limited population at that time. The social development indicators were also not very encouraging at that time. The overall literacy was less than 16%. Let this percentage be highlighted in our mind, that the overall literacy was less than 16%, and female literacy was around 7% only. Public health facilities were unavailable to a very large sector of people. They were inadequate wherever they were available. Hence, water and airborne diseases attacked people in huge number. Now, as we know that nowadays we are suffering from a disease or epidemic, that is corona. Earlier, this waterborne disease were considered as an epidemic and spread, causing a large number of deaths. The overall mortality rate was very high and infant mortality rate was alarming. It was 21 per thousand compared to the present rate of 63 per thousand. Life expectancy at the time of independence was just 32 years compared to the present day, that is 67 years. How this has changed? This is because of the fact that there is a lot of improvement in the healthcare facility, and that is why due to this improvement in the healthcare facility, now life expectancy rate has increased to 67. Due to insufficient data, it is not possible to predict and discuss the level of poverty. But considering the situation, it obviously must have been high contributing to the further deterioration of India. What were the occupational structure where the people were employed during British period and on the eve of independence? There are two important features of India's occupation structure during the British period, and same structure we still follow. There is only change in terms of a bit of percentage. 70% to 75% of India's working population was involved with agriculture sector, 10% were engaged with manufacturing sector, and 15 to 20% were with service sector. Now we are having a different structure now. The maximum population is involved, working population we can say, still depend upon agriculture. That is, out of the total working population, 52% depends upon agriculture. Rest are distributed among service and manufacturing sector. So there was a different kind of occupational structure during colonial period, but now also we find the same kind of occupational structure. The distribution of working population across different industries and sectors showed a very little sign of change during British rule. The largest workforce was in agriculture sector, accounting for about 70 to 75% of the working population. The manufacturing sector has 10%, while the service sector accounted for about 15 to 20% of the working population. The main feature was the growing regional variation. Area of then Madras Presidency, today's Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, Maharashtra and West Bengal saw a decline in the workforce in agriculture with a parallel increase in the manufacturing and services sector. During the same time, there was an increase in the workforce in the agriculture sector in Odisha, Rajasthan and Punjab. So this trend shows that some of the areas of our country were focusing more on agriculture, others were supposed to be following the agriculture, but that is mostly commercial agriculture. Bengal was supposed to export most of the jute to Britishers. Cottons were another important element, another important material that was supposed to be supplied, or that was supposed to be exported to Britishers. Now talking about the infrastructure facility, let us thank Britishers for the most important gift, that is establishment of railways. But do you think that railway was given by Britishers to our country for our development? Obviously not. It was for their benefit, and they have established a whole structure because they wanted to carry out all the raw materials from different parts of the world to their country. The state of infrastructure facilities, especially in the field of transport, communication and energy, was very poor in India during the British rule in India. However, some efforts were made to develop basic infrastructures like roads, railways, port, water transport and post by the Britishers. The British ruler introduced railway in 1850 and Indian Railway began operations in 1853. Do you know the fact the first time Indian Rail has stopped their operations because of coronavirus? The development of the constructions of railways by the British rulers had affected the Indian economy in the following ways. How they have affected? It provided cheap and rapid transport system, especially for distant travel. It broke geographical barrier and thus promoted national unity and understanding. It created new employment opportunities. Many people got employment in railway. It helped in controlling famines. It promoted foreign trade but benefited British more than Indian. It encouraged the process of industrialization. Now, the main reason of British ruler behind the beginning of railway in India, as I was talking earlier, were as follows. To have effective control and administration over the vast country, in view of this, Britishers tried to link important administrative and military centers through railway. It was one of the important part through which they have earned their income. This is all about the first chapter, Indian economy on the eve of independence.